Welcome to Life Drawing, Mark Making. This is the sheet that you will need to make your mark making skills on. Of course, you can just grab a regular sheet of paper and draw 9 squares, or just draw on different sheets of paper, different techniques to show me that you know 9 different ways of mark making skills. All right, for people who are going to be doing the mark making section of their sketchbook, please know that on my classroom board will be something that looks a lot like this. And this is what I base off most of my mark making skills, but you're always allowed to check online. There are so many different answers to how to mark make for shading. And this is just the intro. You'll notice that there's 10 squares here, and I'm just asking for 9. All right. So I'm going to show you different ways of doing it on this paper, but please feel free to look online and find different ways of doing it, different ways of mark making. Let's get started just with the regular hatching. Now, I do want to see it going from darker to lighter. What is hatching? Hatching is literally just straight lines. And if you'll notice, I get lighter and lighter as I go across the page. So already you can see how it's getting darker over here and lighter over here. I'm just laying down enough lines, and this is all hatching is. That'll be important for a second one we'll do later. And I'm going to bear down, just like we kind of did in shading, which we should have accomplished before we did this one. And it gets lighter and lighter as it comes across, and that's all hatching is. All right, I pick up my pencil, or I can kind of leave it, a little bit down, kind of going back and forth. It gets darker over here and lighter over here. And if I think it gets too dark in some areas, of course, I can erase it just a little bit. Bada bing, bada boom, dark to light. All right, next is cross hatching. I do not like this showing of cross hatching, but it does illustrate what we're doing for going dark to light. All I'm doing is the same technique. All right, I'm going to start one way. All right, that's hatching. And oh my gosh, wouldn't you believe it? I'm going to go cross. I'm going to go the other way. Same technique. I'm going to bear down a little bit harder over here and get a little bit lighter as I go. And the space in between is going to give me a different kind of technique. It should be heavier up here, and it's okay to kind of stop halfway through and not really do as much on the other side. Once again, it should go from darker to lighter, and there's cross hatching. Another kind is circularism. For my friends who liked the continual line project, all you're doing is just making circles, and I'm bearing down a little bit more over here, more circles over here. All right, and I'm just going over here. I can go as big as I want. I can go as little as I want. And to be honest with you, I want to go really tiny because it bunches up a little bit more in my darker area. And I'm going to go a little bit lighter, a little bit easier over in this area. And I'm just going back and forth, kind of going until I get all of it. You can already tell it's starting to build up over here because I'm going to overlay it a little darker over here, a little bit lighter as we go, and even lighter. And already you can kind of starting to see how it's from dark to light. All right. I hate that they call this contouring. Contouring, we're going to be covering on the next sheet, but contouring literally just means laying like a sheet over something and what kind of shape it makes. But most people think it's just a round line. And again, we can do just round lines. I wish they would have called it curved, just curving lines. And you'll notice it's almost like the letter C. I'm doing a backward C. And once again, I'm going to go heavier over here and lighter as we go down the page. Again, I don't need as many. If it goes outside the box, it's fine. We're just learning the concept. Look at that. And again, I'm bearing down just like we did on the shading, a little bit heavier over here, more bunching up, and over down here, I'm lightening up. And if I'm doing this right, you're going to almost start to see it's like almost like a cone that's building up because of that curve. It's going to look round, almost looking like we're looking down at a tornado. All right, and once again, darker, darker. See how I'm layering it and still curving, and lighter, lighter, lighter. All right, a lot of people like that scribbles technique. All I'm doing is just putting down some weird marks. All right, it's scribbles, like literally any kind of real mark making, and I'm just going lighter over here. I'm controlling my hand, even though it looks like my hand's out of control. It's got a mind of its own. I am just bearing down a little bit more over here and a little bit lighter over here. All right, and even though it's chaotic and crazy, I still actually have control. There actually is an order to it, and I'm having a darker area over here. I can always go darker over here, and I can get a little bit lighter as I'm going, and then even lighter over here. This one is a little bit harder to control for some friends, but it's eventually going to get you where you need to go. All right. Stippling is a lot of people's favorites. I do recommend for stippling, you're not jabbing it down. It's just a series of dots. You're still holding it like a regular pencil, and all you're doing is just a series of dots. I'm going to collect them over here because the more bunched up they are, hey, look at that. It's already getting darker. It takes a while for stippling. And of course, I'm going to space them out and go a little bit fewer as I go down. Darker over here. I'm going to need a little bit more over here to make that lighter shade. Again, the bigger the collection, the darker it's going to get. The fewer the collection, the lighter it's going to seem. So already you're starting to see how dark it is over here, and it's already starting to look light. Sometimes I like to put down a little bit of a base everywhere first. Like, all right, I'm already done down here, so I'm just going to go a little bit more right here. And I'm trying not to break my pencil. I got a lot of people who are discovering their strength, and some people who just, love breaking pencils. I don't care for that. But yeah, look how all of a sudden it's starting to come together. I'm just going a little bit darker. It takes a little bit longer for this technique. All right, I'm just patting it. I'm not trying to, it's going to get noisy in the classroom if everybody's stippling at once. It's a noise we can choose to ignore. It's just when people start doing this, you're more damaging the pencil, and when it starts to break, I got people coming up every 2 seconds to sharpen their pencils when it's something that's avoidable, okay? And you can already start to tell that it's from darker to lighter the more I'm going, and I'm just trying my best to, collect it over here. Let's go with a different one. I'm going to ignore short dashes. It's basically the same thing, but over here I want to talk about blending. This is people's most favorite thing about shading. I'm doing the basic hatching at first, and I'm going to go and way down right here. The thing about graphite, which is the part of the pencil right there, is it spreads. And if some people have been drawing for a long time, they'll notice the side of their hand or their fingertips start to get that graphite on there. And I'm doing a pretty good job of shading like this. But blending is when I start to actually take my finger, or I can take a paper towel. A lot of people like this, and it's darker over here. This is where my rich darkness is. I'm always going to make sure it's darkest over here, and I'm almost just spreading it out. And it's going to get lighter as I go across the page. I can still go back in and add a little bit more. It's pretty dark over here, so I'm just going to add a lighter one in. I'm just blending it. And then there are tools for blending, but a lot of people just like to use their finger. All I ask is that when you're done, go wash your hands with soap and water. I have a sink in the back of my classroom. Feel free to do that. All right. Do not wipe it on your face. Do not wipe it on friends, as that is not okay. All right. I do want to go over this threes technique. You could do almost any shape repeated. They chose a 3 for this particular worksheet, but any shape repeated. You could do smiley faces. You could do so many different things over and over again. They just did 3, and it is kind of neat to see how the shapes fill in. Again, I want to bunch up in one corner and get fewer as I go out. When I see this technique, I always think it's not 3s. I think it's the birds on the beach, and everybody drew seagulls as the letter M growing up. It just looks like a flock. All right. And if my 3s aren't exactly beautiful, it's okay. No one should be looking to go, oh, those are 3s. It's just a technique that I'm repeating over and over again. Anything repeated over and over again is fine, so long as it goes from dark to light. All right, I'm always interested. Sometimes I get somebody who does a new technique that I've never seen before. They're like, I'm going to repeat this thing. I'm going to repeat that thing. So long as the object is not too extreme, you'll get it. Most letters of the alphabet aren't that extreme. You notice how all of a sudden it's starting to bunch up. It's got darker, and you can almost see it's like a little bit more gray down here and getting lighter. This is what I'll be looking for down there. All right, and last but not least, let's go with the zigzags. Once again, it's just all about bunching up in one corner. All right, I'm trying to bunch up the best I can in one area, okay? And then I go lighter as I go. It says zigzags, but if you get a little loopy, it's okay. Heck, maybe you want to do a loop-de-loop kind. It's different kinds of mark making. That is literally the name of the sheet. I'm looking for those different mark makings. I want each one to be different than the other. I don't want everyone to be hatching. I don't want everyone to be blending. Of course, you can still blend with this. It's not as fun if it's not with that same mark making, but you can try it. This is all about experimentation, what we like, what we don't like. This is building up the fundamentals for our final, because we're going to be really like trying to use every technique we can to show dark to light for lighting for our final project, okay? So already I feel like this is very dark right here and then just light over here, but I can first of all just keep going in this one corner to make it a little darker. So all of a sudden it's now giving me darker, and I didn't even change this area right here. And then I can just go a couple more over here and notice how it's building up that little bit lighter over there. And all of a sudden I have like 1, 2, 3, 4 different kind of shades if you're kind of squinting a little bit. And there we go. Let's take a look at the rubric for grading the mark making section of this sketchbook. So looking at the mark making part of this sketchbook, you'll see that you can receive 25 points for 9 different attempts at using different mark making from dark to light with at least 5 different shades. All right, 17 points for less attempts with only 4 shades. And then 10 points and 0 points for different amounts as well. Please always be looking to make the max amount of points you can. Be looking for that 25-point category.